Bonjour, everybody. Hi. Good Saturday morning. It's gorgeous here in Toma. This is Neshi Locats. Most of you already know me, right? This is the card draw for today. And I have to say, I was a little distracted. Still am. I was sitting out here waiting for the time to elapse so I could start the 10 o'clock live stream, right? And I'm just noticing all the wildlife out here and the plants. And it's just a good day, good time to slow down and just kind of notice what's going on around me, right? Because yesterday was really busy, very busy. You are with me on Star Nations Communications from Home, the Star Nations organization's fan page, our main fan page for the public. We have a couple of closed groups too, but Star Nations organization consists of the live stream shows, the radio internet, that's what we used to call it, and the academy and the magazine, and I'm missing one. There should be 4. Anyway, it is a beautiful day here in Toma, and I have to say that yesterday I was helping move my mother-in-law to Toma from Poinet, which is down near Madison, about an hour and a half from us. And it was a hectic day trying to get her moved in and settled, and she's settled in, and we still have some unpacking to do today. But in all, that we have the 85-year-old mother-in-law up here in Toma at an assisted living place, and she's only 3 miles from us, which makes it's kind of a sense of relief. You know, when somebody that you love is an hour and a half away, and if something happens, trying to get there as quickly as you can. And now she's only three miles away. So that was a good day yesterday. Busy, but very good. And so I did take a little time this morning to kind of slow things down here at home, and a little bit leisurely in getting ready for the day and taking care of my mom. And when I was doing the card draw, I have to say that it was, when I do that, I call all of my spiritual team in, because I want everybody here, everybody present with me, consciously asking them to show me the energy that's important for me to know for today, and that I can share with others, and through Instagram and Facebook now. And I can't even describe it. It is a moment of pure joy when I sense and feel them all around me, and I'm focused on them, on my spiritual team, and I can feel how much they love me, and so it's a moment of joy. And if you haven't ever done that consciously, just not even, I know I called them in for a specific purpose, but we just sat there for a moment, sensing each other and being together. Not saying anything, not thinking anything, just feeling them and how much they love me. And I like starting my day that way. It's a good way. Yeah, makes me smile. All right, so this is the card that they showed me this morning. And actually 3 cards jumped out, but this is the main card for today. And this is the Storyteller. And it's about expansion. And the Storyteller, there's figurines that you can purchase, ceramic usually, and it's always of the larger person is the storyteller, and they have children in their arms or around them, and storyteller. Yeah, in almost every culture, if you go back far enough, almost every culture is indigenous to some land, right? My ancestors happened to be indigenous to North America and Middle America. And your ancestors might be from here, or they might be from, I don't know, Scotland or England or Australia or somewhere else around Grandmother Earth, right? But there's a few things that we hold in common across all indigenous cultures, and that is the use of the drum. Every indigenous culture had a drum at some point in time in their history, even up to the current date. But there's the other thing that we have in common, and that are storytellers. We have always had specific people within our clans, within our tribes, that were designated as a storyteller. And it is a gift to be a storyteller. And let me tell you, the storyteller, according to Jamie Sams, and this is her book, Sacred Path Cards, and she tells us about the storyteller from a couple of different tribal point of views. The Seneca, the Plains, or the Plains Indians. She kind of lumped them all together. The Osheti-Sakoi, the Great Sioux Nation, and some of the other tribes out west. And as she was talking about the storyteller, and in the Oglala, I think it was the Oglala language. We'll have to check with Del Marie Bradfield on this one. Is that the storyteller being called Twisted Hair, and the storytellers out west, in the old days, the ancient ones, that they would wear their hair a certain way, and that it would be kind of twisted like into a bun, and kind of more in the front of their head rather than in the back. But at any rate, the twisted hair, or the storytellers from no matter what culture they're coming from, they're the ones who carried forward the stories of the day and also of the past. And they had good memories. They had to remember all these stories so that they could pass them down to the next generation, right? And the stories many times had a point, a moral point to their stories, to help people figure out for themselves what part of the story addressed them and how they could use the story to make their lives better. And so it wasn't necessarily an outright teacher where they would make you do certain activities. Good morning, Nicole. Certain activities, such as a lesson, right? That wasn't their role. Their role was to tell you the story and for you to use your own intellect, your own experiences, your own behavior to find your way through that story. And it brought up a memory. Good morning, Kelly Spencer. It brought up a good memory for me. When I was very young, and we'd be at my grandparents' house, my mom's parents, you could always tell when somebody, one of the cousins, it was never me, did something wrong. Because we would be in the house. It was a very small house. It was like a 2-room cabin, right? And we'd be sitting on the floor, and my Misha, my grandfather, would be telling us a story. And it was always like a moral to the story kind of story, right? And so I'd be looking around wondering who did what, because it was a way to be able to have us think about our behavior rather than punishing us, right? And so, and the story was meant for everybody. So we had, within the story, there was pieces that was for each one of us. And when I read the information that Jamie Sams wrote, that's what my memories went to, was how my grandfather, my Michel, used to tell us those kinds of stories to help us be better behaved children, I suppose. I have to say that the cards that have been drawn this week have been on a theme that I finally realized today, because the storyteller card is the one that popped out first, right? Jumped out. And then the next two cards were the next cards out, and they came out face down. And this is the standing people and the smoke signals. And these are the cards that came out yesterday, and they came up again. And I sat there and I asked my team, I said, what is this about? Am I supposed to talk about these cards again? I will if there's something that I missed or that you want me to say out loud. I would be happy to do that, but I help me understand. And what I was told is that this is all about communication and how we communicate. And with the storytellers, their role within a community is to help understand the history of the nation or the tribe, the clan, the family, to help pass on that kind of information. But they were also the ones that, because they traveled so much, they went from family to family, or from nation to nation, and so when they came to your village, to your family, they carried stories from other people, and so they were the ones that told who had passed away, who walked on, who had what children, how many children, what was going on in other families along the way. And so they also carried the news. And when you do a job like that, when you're responsible for that kind of thing, to be a balanced and grounded person, so that you have a way of expressing or carrying that information on from a more positive viewpoint. And so the negative side of that would be gossip, right? So you're not talking about another person in a bad way, but you're relaying the good things, or the things that have happened that affect that family. And so I know that it's kind of a fine line sometimes, delivering that kind of information. But it's about communication. It's about communication. Good morning, Susan. And Connie. Good morning, Connie. Mom and daughter are watching together. Well, separate homes, but they're watching together. And so it's like the standing tree, right? We went over that yesterday, and that the trees help us to be reminded to be grounded, balanced, that they're the connection between heaven and earth. And in our communication, whether it be with another two-legged, another person, physical person, or communication with our spiritual guides, that when we're balanced and grounded, we can actually hear our guides better. They're more clear, clarity. So when you're grounded and balanced, your communication is clearer. And that's what the smoke signals was about yesterday. It was about intention, what we intend to communicate and how we communicate. And that the smoke signals were actually a way of communication from a distance. And that kind of communication was meant to be kind of short, to the point, in symbolism. And so you had to be clear in what you were trying to communicate. And so this morning is about storytelling. And when we're clear in telling our own story sometimes, right? What's going on in our own lives. Sharing the emotions around whatever it is that we're telling our story about, but also having a clear intent. What is the message that we're trying to achieve? What are we trying to say? And to be as clear as possible about that. And when you're grounded, you can do that. When you're balanced, you can do that. But there's nothing wrong with showing your emotion, or being, honest with yourself about your emotions around that topic. Communication these days, because it's electronic, can get confusing, can get kind of muddy. You can't see the other person's body language, because that's another part of the communications we're talking about with the smoke signals, is that there's the nonverbal communication as well. Your body language, your eyes, the full package. And so when you do electronic communications, emails, texts, miscommunication can happen so easily. And sometimes you can't guarantee how the other person is going to react to your words. You may mean one thing and they may understand it to be something else. And so the storyteller has to be grounded, right? Has to be grounded. Good morning, City Lynn. Good to have you with us. Make sure, let's see. Yeah, it is a good one. And the thing is that this information is meant to be helpful. So you can take whatever feels good to you, that discern for yourself, right? If it rings true for you, then there's something in it that you can look at a little bit closer. And as your day progresses, how does this information help? Where do you see it? Be aware of it. And it's meant to be helpful. I just wanted to make sure that what Jamie Sams is saying is that she says medicine stories are told and retold year after year to keep the teachings of the people alive. Every story has many meanings and relates to life in a multitude of ways. And each time a story is retold, the level of understanding grows and expands along the maturity of the listener. And I have to agree with her, because because my mom is here with us, living with us. I get to hear the same stories that I heard when I was much younger, when I was a teenager, even. I didn't have time for the stories then. I didn't want to make time for the stories then. I had my focus. Was on other things. It was on my friends, it was on boys, it was on when's the next party. I was not interested in the stories that my mom wanted to pass down. And so now, hi Pam, and now that she's here and she's 98 and I'm 58, I get to hear those stories again, and I'm making time for them. I'm sitting down and I'm listening. And if I don't understand something and I need a little clarity around it, I can actually ask her, is this what you're telling me? Is this how am I understanding this correctly? And so I have a chance to be able to ask some questions. Now that doesn't mean that she's always excited and happy that I'm asking questions. Because she grew up in a generation where they didn't ask questions at all. They sat and they listened. And if they didn't understand it, that eventually it would reveal itself. In my generation, we were taught to ask questions, not by our parents necessarily, but by the school system, right? And so, and she knows that. She knows that. But she says, "Were you listening to me?" And it's like this time, yes, I was. Yes, I was. So the card application, what Jamie Sams writes about this is that the Storyteller card speaks of expansion on all levels. You are now growing and encompassing many new ideas if you have received this card. See which area of expansion needs your attention and feed your personal fire of creation. Create more and enjoy the expansion, knowing you earned it. Note that the expansion will continue if you're willing to share how you achieved your success with others. Many lives are influenced by another's story. In the good fortune of your present situation, you may be instrumental in encouraging others. In all cases, expansion occurs when people are allowed to grow at their own rate and with their own understanding. The wisdom of the storyteller is a part of the art of remembering. Note that you are now remembering your personal medicine and how to be your potential. So in other words, for me, that means that we all have our personal story to tell, right? And when you feel that you can share it with another person, there's also a level of trust, a level of having your heart open and being vulnerable. And that's why it's good to be grounded. That's where the tree people come in. That's where the standing people come in, is that you can tell your story in a grounded way And you never know what part of your story is going to touch another human, another two-legged, to help them along their way. And then we have to be aware of how we're communicating it. So when you're grounded, you're coming from a more positive way. And, you know, when we're grounded and we're balanced, we can actually address those things that may be hard, challenging to do. Those things that you're afraid that you're going to hurt another person's feelings, right? Or that they're going to think badly of you. So those difficult conversations, when you're grounded and you're balanced, you can have those kind of conversations in the best way possible. And that's where our growth is. You know, I truly believe that when we're able to actually look at a situation and face our fears, face the hard, challenging pieces, that's where our soul growth is. That when we can work through it and we can learn the lesson through it, that's where our soul growth is. You know, when we were young, do you remember your growing pains? Do you remember those? Mine were always in my knees. And sometimes it was just a dull ache. And other times it was an excruciating pain where, you know, it would hurt to stand up and to walk. I remember either my mom putting hot pads on my knees or cold treatment, you know, ice, and other medicine remedies from nature. But I remember the growing pain. And sometimes we do have pain even in our soul growth. And in my own life, I found that when I don't want to look at it, when I want to ignore it, I don't want to go there, is when it's more painful. Is when I can sit down and I can be grounded, be balanced, take a deep breath, and ask for assistance, guidance from my team. How is the best way I can do this? How can I do this in a graceful way, in a loving and a kind way, but still talk about what needs to be talked about? And they'll give me suggestions. I remember one time. This was years and years ago. I said, "Well, what can I do to make this better? What can I do? What is this all about? You know, I just want to learn the lesson and get on with it." And what came through was, then apologize. Apologize. And I said, apologize for what? I didn't do anything wrong. And it's like, that's when I learned every life lesson is a two-way street. Two-way street. We're both learning something. And we're only responsible for our side of the street. And so, okay, I got to work on this though. I'll apologize, but it has to be heartfelt. So I had to sit with it for a little while so that I could work through. And actually, when I said the apology, that it would be heartfelt. It wouldn't just be the words coming out, because that way my behavior, my words, my thoughts were congruent, right? Took me a couple days, but I got there. And when I apologized, it opened the door to a deeper conversation, and so it was very lots of growth in that one. That was years ago. Let me think. I think it was early 2000s. Could have been 1999, but anyway. Nicole, mine were terrible in my shins and calves. I know those growing pains. Oh my gosh. You know, and my youngest brother, his was really painful. He grew like, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches over a summer. And that one summer was painful for him. He was always shorter than me, you know. He's my younger brother by 14 months. And then that one summer he got taller, and he's, you know, I think 6 foot or 6'1" now. And so, you know, he's a lot taller than me. But that summer was very painful for him, very painful. So that is the card, the information, the energy for today. Now here's the poem. This is one of the things I like about Jamie Sam's cards, is that she includes a poem with every card. And so here's a Storyteller poem. She writes, "Sing to me, O ancient ones, of the history of our race, that I may see in my mind the love in every face, and every spirit that came before, the medicine that they made, the sacred traditions they passed to me, so that memory will not fade. O Storyteller, be my bridge to those other times, so I may walk in beauty with the ancient rhythm and rhyme." Isn't that good? I love that one. I like that one a lot. Especially the, so I may walk in beauty with the ancient rhythm and rhyme. Storyteller. It's about expansion. So take what feels good to you. Discern for yourself the information about this card, the stories that I told, and take what feels good to you, and watch how your day unfolds, and I'm hoping that it's going to be useful, helpful to you. Okay, enjoy the rest of your Saturday and the weekend, and if you're doing anything for Mother's Day tomorrow, much joy to you, blessings to you and your mom. We're going to have both mothers here for the first time, all at the same time. We're going to be doing a cookout. Cross your fingers, no rain. And so we'll be here tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Central Time, and with the next card draw. Okay. All right. Enjoy your day. Bama Mina, which is Potawatomi for until we see each other again. See you later.